Well, hey folks, welcome to another episode here at Gideon's Tactical. I got to tell you, I am super pumped and super excited for this particular review that I have for you here today. Today here in the Blade Boot Camp, I have a very special knife, and from time to time a knife comes into the Blade Boot Camp that has just some really heart and a big sense of meaning behind it. And this knife has a lot of meaning not only for me, but I believe for a lot of people that are going to be watching this video. What we have here today is the Wolfe Cutlery Bravo4, designed by Josh Wolfe. Josh Wolfe is the designer of this knife and the owner of Wolfe Cutlery. The very cool thing about Josh Wolfe is that he is an active duty Army Sniper School instructor. Very cool. And so when someone graduates Army Sniper School, they get the designation of Bravo4. And so he has named this knife the Bravo4. And really the thought process that Josh has put into this knife is that, on his deployments throughout the world, he has had many production knives that he broke, with his uses, which the things that he was doing on active deployment, he broke them. So what he wanted to do was come up with a knife that he could, sell and give to not only Army snipers, but the general public, and make a knife that was so tough and so durable that basically it was borderline indestructible, and be something that could not only pass as a utility knife, a combat knife, but also just a camp knife. And so that's what we have here in this Bravo4. We're going to do a full field test. We have it here in the Blade Boot Camp and thumping on it, as you can see. And man, is this thing a tank, in a monster. You can just see how thick that monster of a knife is. And we're going to go through all the specs. We're going to talk to you about what this knife has to offer you, and what are its capabilities, what this knife would be good for, and just have a good time, reviewing just a knife that has a lot of heart behind it and a lot of meaning for a lot of people. So again, Josh, thank you so much for sending this over here to the Blade Boot Camp and giving me the chance to test it out. Thank you for your service, and for all the men and women in our armed forces for giving us the chance to live and have a free life that we get to live here in America. Is just amazing, and then we thank you so much for your sacrifice. So with all that being said, guys, let's go ahead, hop to it, start thumping on this Bravo4, see what it can do. Hopefully by the end of this video, I'll hope that you'll know whether or not this is a good knife for you. Let's take it right there. It's snowing now. Look at that, man, that's awesome. Boom. I would not be doing that on a knife that didn't have that type of tip without a 3B steel. Look at that. Look at that. Oh my gosh. Boom! I think that that's going through better than the we got two parts to this. First, I'm going to talk through, because there's a lot of different options with the blade itself. Then we'll talk about its actual performance. But first off is this. The first thing is that we are looking at from the handle to the tip of 4.9 inches overall, and then you're looking at a cutting edge of 4.7. So just a hair under 5 inches overall length. We're looking at a very wide blade at, I believe, if I remember correctly, I believe it's 1.8. I'll contain it in height from the spine to the edge. Now, the version that I have, which is the military version, there's basically two versions for this. A version that's only purchasable and able to be purchased by the military, people who have served in the military, and then there's there's another civilian version. I was blessed enough, and to my knowledge, I'm one of the only civilians to ever be able to get my hands on the military version, because I have not served in the military. I thank all of our service members for their service, but I have not, but this is the military version. The military version is going to be full tang, just like the civilian version, but it is 5/16, over a 1/4 inch thick. This thing is a monster pry bar. I mean, it is as thick as you can imagine a knife of this size being. The civilian version will be 3/16. Now, he may change that in the future, change some things around, but as of right now, when I'm making this video, the military version is going to be 5/16, and you got to prove that you are in the military. The civilian version, for those of you who have not served in the military, is 3/16 of an inch thick. So there's two different versions there out on the market. Now, with that being said, once you have purchased the knife, there's lots of different options in the grind that you can choose. This is a very high hollow grind. And normally I'm not a huge fan of hollow grinds, but because of how thick this blade is and what you can do with it, I'm actually really glad that Josh put a hollow grind on it. He did a great job with it. It's very high, it's got a very mild shoulder, so it's not going to bind up in the wood, and he just did a great job with that. If you did not want a hollow grind, and the hollow grind also just really helps as being more of a utility knife. It's going to be able to be a better slicer in combat. It's going to be a better slicer through nylon and those type of things. That's why that hollow grind is actually working really well for me, and it does good wood processing. But if you don't want a hollow grind, he'll do a full flat grind, he'll do a saber grind, he'll do a convex grind, he'll do basically any grind you can come up with, but he will not do Scandi grinds. So don't ask him. He doesn't like Scandi grinds, doesn't like doing it. He will not do Scandi grinds, but you have a preference and a choice. Any grind you want, he'll put on there. And then finally, the blade coatings. He'll do anything basically that you can, under the sun, that you can come up with, from black oxides. This is kind of a flat gray, to satin, stone wash. I mean, every type of different coating you can kind of come up with. You just have to work with him and decide what you want to do, but he will give you any type of coating that you like on the knife. All right, final thing before we get into actual performance is the steel. I totally forgot about that. The steel is CPM 3V, and I love CPM 3V. I've used it a lot on multiple knives now, and it's a great high carbon steel that's extremely tough, rather rust resistant, and isn't too difficult to resharpen in the field. And I've even seen this with this knife. I've been able to touch it up very easily with a field sharpener, and it holds a great edge, much longer than your 1095s and 5160s, but it's going to be about as tough as 5160 from all of my experience. And Josh is doing a great heat treat and tempering over there, and just does a good job with this steel. Now, with that being said, the performance on this knife is ridiculous. This thing is a monster when it comes to basically anything a sub 5-inch knife can do. This is literally, you've heard the term sharpened pry bar. I've never seen a 5/16 inch thick sharpened pry bar like this before. Batoning, it's going to split wood apart. The wood just flew apart and exploded apart when I would use the wood, when I would split the wood. Then, like feather sticking, because of the hollow grind, I was actually able to do very impressive feather sticking, better than my BK2. This reminds me a lot of my BK2 in the sense of its size and kind of dimensions, but it does a better job because it has the hollow grind versus the saber grind that the BK2 would have. And then what's it called, notching, even those type of things. I was able to do more survival bushcraft style tasks with this knife impressively well. Now, obviously, 32nd inch, full flat ground knife is going to do better, but for the size and thickness of this knife, it is extremely capable for those type of tasks, and can do a lot of tasks rather well. It's not going to excel at game processing in the sense of the finer stuff, or in food prep. It's just not that great at it. It's because of how thick and big it is. It just doesn't really perform that well in those capabilities. And then, even, hand-to-hand combat type of stuff, stabbing, prying, the nose and tip of the blade is just ridiculously thick. So it will penetrate and gives you good lockup. And that's why Josh made this thing this thick, is that, when he was out there on deployment, he broke some of his other knives. So he wanted a knife that would basically be indestructible and still compact enough that he could carry on him all the time. And so that's really the thought process behind this, but also being able to do, camp tasks if you needed to, some survival tasks, and also combat tasks. So anything, guys, that I've thrown at it, I was stunned, literally, at how thick it is. I was stunned at its performance, and how it, you know, has performed is just phenomenal. The one area where I didn't see a lot of good performance was chopping. A BK2 will chop better than this. This will absolutely do light limb clearing, but a BK2 with its handle design and handle ergonomics and grind, that saber grind, will do a little bit better than a hollow grind when it comes to chopping. So that was the one area where I wasn't as impressed, but every other thing that I could throw at this was ridiculous, and really is honestly a sharpened pry bar that can do fine tasks and also hard, more brutal, blunt tasks in its performance. All right, folks, let's hit quality here real fast for you. Very high quality item. I love the not only fit and finish, but design, as well as the materials and USA made CPM, you know, 3V steel, great heat treat. This thing is holding a ridiculous edge, and it's not difficult again for me to tune it up either, which is just awesome. Really just well done knife, guys. So very high quality in my opinion, and running, you know, giving knife companies that have been around that are full production knife companies that don't give you custom, you know, capabilities like Bark River and Survive Knives, giving them a huge run for their money. So I would absolutely say that this is a quality rating of 5 out of 5 on the Bravo4, and definitely a primo blade. All right, folks, let's go ahead and talk through the handle and give you the ergonomic rating here on the knife. Now, what we're looking at when we're talking about the specs, we're looking at an overall length from the guard to the back of 4.25 inches. It's going to be 0.75 inches thick at its thickest point right there. Again, love seeing that Gideon's Tactical laser engraved right there, very cool. And these are G10, and so basically any kind of G10 that you can come up with for this knife and the color combinations, Josh can do for you. So that's really cool. So you can get greens and blacks and blues and, you know, grays, and I mean, you name it. You know, the colors are endless, and we got those red liners in there that make it pop just slightly, and these are pinned in, and I got to tell you, Josh did a fantastic job. And now I would say that this is high polished G10 with very low traction. It's not, you know, like think of it's not like a cold steel pocket knife, you know, where it's going to thrash your pocket or, you know, thrash your hand. It's pretty slick, but he did a great job really machining all the edges. There are no sharp edges whatsoever all the way around the knife. I really like that a lot. Just really feels comfortable in my large size gloves. And I got to tell you, I was a little concerned when he was sending me pictures before I got it, you know, about this hump. I was like, oh man, is that hump going to really, you know, affect the ergonomics? But it doesn't. My finger fits perfectly, my index finger, and then it divides the rest of my hand, and it feels just great in the hand. It never creates a hot spot. Even when I'm doing reverse grips, as you guys know, I like to do that, the handle just cups perfectly to my hand, and that hump just doesn't seem to get into my hand. It doesn't do it, which is great. So it does a very good job in any, you know, either, you know, tactical task because of how deep this guard is. It's going to really lock you into place. There's no jimping. I'm glad about that. As we talked about in a couple of videos I've done recently, I'm not a huge fan of jimping. I'm glad there's no jimping on there, and just feels very comfortable in the hand in either you know, reverse grip, maybe tactical situation if that's how you're going to use it, and it will give you enough lockup, I believe, with that deep guard, or, you know, just in a normal hammer grip, or even some bushcraft style grips. So all of that is great, and if that was it, I would say that this is a 5 out of 5 on the ergonomics. I'm gonna ding it half a point for this reason. The 4.25 inches of length is a little short. Now you can see there, again, I wear large size gloves. I got maybe half an inch, maybe, hanging off the back there. I'm really close. And when I give it to Brian, our cameraman, who usually wears XL or even double XL size gloves, the handle is basically too small. I mean, he's back here, you know, like this on the handle. So I've talked to Josh about that. I said, you know, hey man, just bring out everything is perfect. Just bring out the handle about another ½ inch, will be solid. So I'm sure in the future he'll probably tweak that design slightly. So I'm gonna say overall, guys, I'm gonna give this an ergonomic rating of 4.5 out of 5. And if the length, just a little more real estate, would be great for those of you with bigger size hands. And I think that as Josh tweaks the design ever so slightly, if he makes the handle instead of 4.25, if he makes it like 4.75 on the handle, it'll be perfect. Keep everything the same. So very close though, and for my hands, no problems whatsoever, and just kind of looking out for you guys with bigger hands that are out there. So with all that being said, guys, let's go ahead and keep on rolling. All right, folks, real briefly, I want to run in 2 other knives purely for size perspective, because I'm probably going to get that question, you know, multiple times, particularly, you know, how does it compare to the BK2 in size, you know, or anything like that. Now, The Bravo 4 is going to be a much higher quality, not only in fit and finish, but in materials than the two knives that you see here, but purely for size, just kind of help you out a little bit. The Bravo 4 is going to be a little bit bigger on the blade end than a BK16, and it's going to be just a little bit smaller than a BK2. And for weight, kind of to give you some weight perspective as well, 1 pound on the BK2, 12 ounces on the Bravo 4, and about 6 to 7 ounces on the BK16. So if you will, to kind of give you some help here, imagine basically a BK2 blade with a BK16 handle for size proportion, if you will. So just kind of give you some help there, just kind of trying to help you out with size perspective. And you can see there again with the handle that's even a little bit shorter than a BK16 when I line up the guards here. So again, I really hope that that's in future designs gets brought out about a ½ an inch will really help, I believe, the overall ergonomics of the knife. So just kind of give you again perspective there, even with handles on these 3 blades, and how the Bravo 4 compares to these 2 other knives that are very popular and have a similar profile to the Bravo 4. All right, so really quickly, I want to touch on how you can get your hands on one of these knives or other Wolfe products that are going to be coming out shortly. And what we're looking at and how you would get in contact with Josh Wolfe and order a knife through Wolfe Cutlery right now is on Facebook only. I will have a link in the description below to their Facebook page, and you can just message Wolfe Cutlery and get the ball rolling. There is definitely a wait period. Last I talked to him, I think he told me it was pushing 25 weeks. I'm not 100% sure on that now, because he had some moving and different things like that. So right around, you're going to be waiting a little while to get your hands on a Wolfe Cutlery, but I believe the wait is well worth it. And again, I will have links in the description below so that you can get the ball rolling. And then in some point in 2016, I know he's working on a website, and if that ever gets solidified and up, I will add that link in the future to this video and any future videos on Wolfe Cutlery blades that we do. So right now, Facebook, links are in the description below to get your hands on one of these Bravo 4s.
Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about the price point here on the knife. Now, as we've talked about when we were talking about the specs, there's 2 different versions, the civilian version and the military version. The military version will be more expensive at $250, but 50 of those dollars are going to be going to the Fallen Sniper Fund through the Army Sniper Association, which is really cool. So that when you're purchasing this, if you're in the military and you're purchasing this and you're getting the thicker version, that money is going to be going, to Fallen Sniper funds and to help, fund all that, which I think is really cool. If you're buying the civilian version at the 3/16, that's $200. So that's still a great price point when we're talking about the CPM 3V custom made knife, grinds that you want, handle scales you want, all that type of stuff. I mean, that's a great price point when we're talking about other knives out there of similar steel, the 3V steel, from either Bark River, Survive Knives, other companies like that. They're all right around the $200 to $250. So that's a great, very moderate price point, honestly, for a custom knife. And so I would absolutely be giving this a value rating of 5 out of 5 for this Bravo 4.
All right, folks, let's go ahead and look at the sheath and talk you through the sheath options that you're going to get on the Bravo 4. Now, if you just purchased the knife without wanting to upgrade the sheath, you're going to be getting a sheath made by W2H Kydex. Now, that's what we're looking at here. Now, the production is still in the ongoing working phase, and so there are still going to be some tweaks. Now, I'm going to walk you through the positives of the Kydex, and there is a leather option we'll talk about in just a moment, but I'm going to talk you through the Kydex, the good parts, and then there's one negative that probably some of you are seeing right out of the gate. Now, the retention is fantastic. Very strong retention. There is 0 rattle, very snug, very secure in there. We got some lashing points that's going to give you different, belt attachments, whatever you would like. And it's just very, very snug, and you do get a little bit of a drainage hole, very, nice and straight, no goofiness there whatsoever. The problem is that because of how snug and tight it is, there definitely needs to be a thumb push-off, thumb ramp right here, and there's not. So it is very difficult for me to pull this and deploy the knife. Now, I commented on that to Josh right away, and so he's working with his Kydex maker, W2H Kydex, and they're going to fix that right away. So all the rest of them should have some sort of a thumb push off. And I mean, if it had that, it'd be a 5 out of 5 on the sheath rating for the Kydex. Because mine doesn't have that, and so now I'm either going to have to melt it or jack with it, or try and figure out something to fix that so that I do have some sort of a push off. Otherwise, it's almost kind of dangerous for me to deploy it as is. Again, this should be fixed with all, you know, future productions, but I'm going to ding it 2 points. And so this KELTY version, I'm going to give a 3 out of 5, 3 out of 5 on the carry option rating. There is a leather sheath option. I don't know who's making that. If I can figure that out or, you know, find that out, I'll connotate that in. That is an extra $60, and from all the pictures that I've seen, it looks like a very good, high quality leather sheath. So if you don't want the Kydex and you like leather, there is that option, but it's going to rock you about another $60 on top of the original price point. So those are the 2 sheath options, and that is my feeling on this sheath. But the Kydex should be fixed with a good thumb push off here very shortly with the rest of the productions that come out in the future.
I think he is short-handed with his camera.
Yeah.
Booyah.
So folks, it's time for us to wrap up this review for you here on the Bravo4, give you my final thoughts and likability on the knife. And I got to say that this is absolutely a monster blade for how small it is. I mean, this is a compact knife that is not going to take up a lot of real estate on your rig, but is going to give you something that is extremely tough and capable in any task that I've put it to. I can't come up with anything that I'm like, yeah, it's not really, you know, performing like I'd like it to in the things that a knife of this size could do. I mean, it's just wow. And for the strength and durability that you're getting with this Bravo4 makes this, I mean, basically a sharpened pry bar that's going to get a lot of work done for you, regardless if you are military, law enforcement, camper, or you're just looking for a great, you know, like bug out bag, survival knife, you know, but you don't want this giant monster blade. This blade has a lot going for it, guys. So with all that being said, I cannot help but say that this is absolutely a 5 out of 5 on my likability. If you're looking for an indestructible, small, lightweight knife in that sense of being compact and lightweight for its thickness and size, this Bravo4 is going to definitely be worth the money that you would lay down to pick one of them up. So with all that being said, guys, again, thank you so much for checking out the channel. We have links again in the description below to the ways to get a hold of Wolfe Cutlery and get your hands on one of these Bravo knives. And I know that Josh is also coming out with a lot of other designs, and he's already working on some other stuff that I'm sure is going to be really some phenomenal stuff out there on the market soon, coming up rather soon. So with all that being said, guys, thank you so much for checking out the channel. Please subscribe, comment, like, share this video. Check us out on all the relevant social media. Those links are in the description below as well. And as always, remember, stay equipped, stay prepared, and we'll see you out there.